Hey, what's up? So there's a fresh patch for Valheim. First off, the radial menu got a neat little quality of life tweak. You can now use release to select. That means instead of having to hope your thumb or mouse cursor lines up perfectly while you hold the radial key, you can hold the button to open the wheel, move to the emote you want, and then let go to select it. Much more natural and less likely to misfire when you're in the middle of a moment and want to send an emote without fumbling. It's the kind of tiny control improvement that doesn't change gameplay balance but makes the whole interaction feel smoother, especially if you're on the go in multiplayer or trying to be expressive in a crowded base. Speaking of controllers, the crouch behavior on gamepad has been reverted back to a single press action. Previously, it had been flipped to press and hold by mistake, which annoyed a bunch of players who crouch for building or sneaking and expect a quick toggle. Now, a single tap crouches and you don't have to keep your thumb down, which is much easier when you're juggling camera adjustments or sprinting into combat. Controller players are going to appreciate the return to the expected responsiveness. On the graphics side, the patch tackles a couple of display headaches. There were reports of resolution changes behaving oddly in windowed mode and settings that wouldn't stick after updating from earlier versions. Those glitches could force you to reapply settings or restart the game to get things looking right. And that's a boring interruption when you just want to get back to building or exploring. This update fixes that behavior, so resolution changes work properly in windowed mode, and the graphics options should apply correctly the first time after an update, plus a few small UX improvements in the graphics menu to make toggling and confirming settings less confusing. So fewer trips to the options screen and fewer restarts. Stability and performance got attention too. There was a particular Windows startup crash that kicked in under certain Vulkan conditions. It could prevent the game from starting for affected setups. That's now fixed, which matters a lot if you use Vulkan or have a hardware driver combo that exposed the problem. Audio performance in the new Ashlands biome was also patched. Some players experienced stuttering or hiccups in that area, and the devs corrected the underlying issues so the soundscape runs smoothly while you're fighting through those harsher zones. Fixes like these keep sessions from being interrupted by crashes or jarring audio problems, which is the kind of invisible work that pays off over many hours of play. Modders weren't left out either. The update resolves a null reference exception that could occur at startup when mods access preferences, whether directly or indirectly. If you run a heavily modded client or host servers with mods that tweak UI or preferences, that kind of exception would sometimes halt the mod loading process or cause errors on launch. Patching this up improves mod stability at boot, so mods that touch configuration data should behave more reliably after this change. Given how central mods are to many players' experiences, that's a meaningful under-the-hood fix. Beyond listing fixes, it's worth pointing out why small updates like this matter. After more content-focused releases, follow-up patches that polish controls, fix crashes, and tidy UI work to preserve the long-term health of a game. They don't rewrite how you play, but they remove friction, less frustration with controller quirks, fewer graphics annoyances after an update, and better startup behavior for certain setups. When you add mods into the mix, those stability fixes can be the difference between a smooth night of co-op and an evening spent troubleshooting. The developers have a pattern of prioritizing both new content and the necessary maintenance that keeps the whole experience feeling cohesive. If you're thinking about how these changes will land in practical terms, the radial menu tweak will speed up emote selection and reduce accidental picks. The crouch fix gives gamepad players their expected toggle back. The graphics fixes mean fewer surprises when swapping resolutions or updating. The Vulkan crash fix avoids a nasty startup blocker for affected Windows players. And the Ashlands audio fix and mod startup patch both improve in-game immersion and reliability. Those are the kinds of fixes that don't make headlines but quietly improve hundreds of hours of gameplay for a lot of folks. Overall, this patch feels like careful housekeeping. It keeps the foundation solid while the team continues to ship content and broader updates. If you had run into any of these issues, you should see a difference after updating. And if you hadn't noticed them, you'll likely benefit from the cumulative effect. Fewer hiccups, more predictable controls, and a slightly more polished UI experience. For anyone running mods or using less common graphics configurations, the startup and preferences fixes are particularly important because they reduce the chance of weird errors during launch. That's the rundown: small but meaningful changes across control ergonomics, graphics stability, audio smoothness, and mod reliability. Patch notes like this are the quiet work that makes returning to the game feel better every single session, and that's always a welcome thing for long-term players and newcomers alike.